Hey, this is Damien, and this is the Killer Be Killed podcast. We are without George today on this lovely second day of December. George has been as we all know, his mom is dealing with cancer, and he's going to be meeting with the nurse and the oncologist today as we speak. So thoughts and prayers to George and his mom and their family as they handle this crisis. So, yeah, you're stuck with me. Always leave your comments, much appreciated, and we'll just get into it. I know we're going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse and a couple things going on with that. But first, I want to talk to you about something that just happened to my daughter. She's across the United States in California, and she's a good-looking girl. She's living on her own off campus with a couple roommates, and she had an incident in her apartment complex. And I'll lay it out to you, see how she handled it, and then some of my concerns of what's going on out there. First, situation is she gets a call from her boyfriend, and he said he was approached going to his car, leaving her apartment. Two guys, about 5'10", Hispanic, dressed in like shorts and jerseys, hats, baseball hats, approached him and asked him some simple questions like, do you live here? Where you going? Like that kind of stuff. Like what to normal people would seem like an innocuous question, but to people that are trained, this is a dodge. All right. So what happens is when people approach you, and they're asking you, it's things like that seem harmless. They're testing you. So they're taking your temperature just to see how much they can get away with. So if you engage, it's going to be first, so where are you going? You answer. Now there demonstrates a willingness of you to volunteer information that you normally, that you don't have to give. Second thing may happen is they may ask for money. They may ask for, use of a cell phone. They may ask for access to your apartment for maybe they're not feeling well, maybe they have to use a bathroom, something like that. But it's a process of them just ferreting out what they can get away from you. And this is more than someone who is generally just trying, this can escalate into someone, from someone who is generally trying to just roll you, get some money out of you, or a lot worse. And I think in this case, as you're going to find out, it turns out to be a lot worse. So he calls my daughter and gives her the heads up. So calls the police and reports it. Nothing happened. So the local sheriff's department, I'm not going to throw them under the bus just yet, but seeing if this plays out over the coming days, we might just do that. Again, if you don't know, I'm a first responder, and I live in a community where, things are just handled differently, and we'll get to that in a moment. So daughter comes out and she she sees two guys, not just one. So the boyfriend saw one guy, which means that there were probably two the whole time. But again, like we say, you don't always, you got to treat every situation like a multiple assailant situation, because if these guys, these two guys are operating together, one guy's going to be hidden, and then when the other guy gets your attention, you get sucked in, the other guy comes in and will lay the wood. So she gets approached, and automatically her radar goes off, and she's like, I gotta get the hell out of here. So she was pinned in a position where she was closer to her vehicle than she was to her apartment or to the manager's office. So she pressed forward, quickly got into her vehicle. She doesn't have service in her parking garage, which is a real issue. And this is something you all need to consider. So doesn't have service in her garage, gets in her car, takes off, calls the cops, says, I was followed. I'm leaving the scene. Describes them. She's freaked out. So she goes to school, tells her roommate, and her roommate comes up with this story. She's like, yeah, 2 months ago, same guys came up to me, asked me if I can help them put packages, help me, load some packages in their car. This is just like that dodge is like serial killer rapist kind of move. Get you close to the vehicle and then subdue you, get you into the vehicle, you're gone. So now she winds up, this guy wind up even to go as far as to follow her in a car to the campus. So her roommate goes in, reports it to the campus security. Then she reported it to the manager's office at the apartment complex where they're staying. So now it's, something that was bad could be something potentially hideous and awful. So now she winds up, telling my daughter, and then, okay, so, they go back. In the meantime, while, the manager that was there back when a roommate first reported is no longer there anymore because the apartment complex got sold. New management team comes in. Great. So I, over the course of learning this over a few hours yesterday, waiting, they're assuming that the police are going to respond. So finally I get on the phone. I call the sheriff's department. I'm like, hey, introduce myself, let them know, that, I'm a firefighter and all this stuff. So I'm just like, my daughter's there. I explain. So I go, the first time I get so this was to dispatch. I call them the non-emergency number, of course. First time I get transferred, nobody picks up the phone. The supervisor, it's the swing shift. It's the evening shift. So I automatically get disconnected. So finally they put me through again, and I'm talking to the supervisor. Turns out that call did come in at around 11:13 a.m. Everyone was toned out locally, so they were, which means that there was an emergency, and the way my daughter communicated to dispatch didn't seem like an immediate emergency. And the fact of the matter is, it technically wasn't, because she described herself as escaping, getting away, and leaving the scene. So technically, she was not, in any immediate danger at that point. She had already done, she followed her training. She felt that something was wrong. She obviously is moving with pepper spray and other items on her body when she's, out in public. She's not a big person. So needless to say, I carry the same crap anyway. But, she was aware. She reacted accordingly and survived. So she winds up, so I called it, so I'm on the phone with the supervisor and I'm asking, what happened. So he looks up and goes, someone finally got over there. 45 minutes later, they did right around the traffic circle in front of the apartment complex, didn't see anybody, and left. So they didn't go into the manager's office. They didn't contact my daughter in a follow-up. They just drove there, did a once around, didn't see anybody, and left. Now, the supervisor said something that, it fucking pissed me off. He's like, did they commit any crime? And no, technically, at this point, they didn't. But I just described to you what has happened over the course. That's right. When seconds count, Kip, 100%. So I just described to you over the course of several months that nobody thought, to, get a statement, put something together. I mean, as luck would have it, they do have these guys on surveillance footage with security. So great. But at least, now it's like if there was I understand the cop's position. Look, we got a real emergency. These guys probably left immediately after my daughter, escaped the scene. But yeah, she, clearly didn't, how can I put this? She, didn't, well, I say she, I mean, disregard. I mean, the situation was already diffused, but it's a situation that's happening now. So the question is really, what can you do moving forward? One, as soon as you see these guys, you call the police. Done. They may have a reason to be there, but at least, again, getting back to the three things every criminal fears: being caught, being identified, and being injured, right? So that being said, immediately now, that's what they're going to do. One. Two, her roommate should have called the actual cops, not campus security. So I have this thing with campus security and schools and little brief, history. So there's a Jeannie Cleary is a girl who was brutally raped and murdered at Lehigh University. It just so happened that happened the year before I attended. So and it was another student that did this. He was, whether he's living off campus or on campus or not, what happened is people like always would prop the doors open. So, pizza delivery. So instead of going down to go get their pizza, pizza delivery guy would, open the door and come up and come to your room. So doors are constantly propped open. The offender gained access that way and just was looking for opportunity for places. He was going to, he needed money. He was going to just look to rob some students and then leave. Jeannie's door was open. He went in, decided, was robbing her. She was in there taking a nap, woke up, and it turned into like a brutal rape and murder. So from that point forward, campus security started, ramping up, and then, to what you see today. And there's something called the Cleary Act, which demands that campuses make their incidents public. But now what happens is this, there's a tendency of college campuses to downplay reports of assault, reports of attack, reports of, anything, because now they've got this public reporting. So, when you're trying to run a business, which, make no mistake, that's what college is. It's a business. So when you're trying to run a business, what you don't want is people to think that your campus is unsafe. So, she reports this. They're like, someone's following me. They look out. They don't see anybody. They're like, okay, maybe they make a note. Maybe they don't. But they definitely don't call in the police. So, at the end of the day, and just as a side note, I'm going to tell you, like, living where I live in Saddle River, growing up in Ridgewood, and even when I was the subject of, let's say, living a lifestyle where police were reported, I mean, if you call 911, someone's going to ask you, follow up with you to make sure that it was a real call, because these are, it's a crime to prank emergency services. So, you're going to, someone calls 911 to your house. Even if nobody's home, they're going to get out and look around the dwelling. They're not going to drive by and be like, hey, nobody's here. They're going to talk to somebody. At least that's been my experience. Not, It's like, holy shit. We sent somebody and then nobody's taking a statement. I just, Kip just put it. Yeah. Yeah, Kip. Most campuses have to be safe. They're gun free and good vibes. Right. So think about this. If you're a criminal, where are you going to go? The places where the guns are or the places where the guns aren't? And when we say guns, we also imply training and all that goes with it. So, it's not just willy-nilly handing people guns. So, that being said, you've got to really, and now my daughter's understanding, honestly, for like the first time, kind of what I do, believe it or not. I mean, she knows what I do and whatever, and we've had our moments together, where, I've, believe me, where I've, try to educate her in some places, it obviously has sunk in over the years, but they, she is now, understanding the importance of self-reliance and being able to take care of yourself, and understanding that the police are not all of a sudden going to treat everything like, it's the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. It's like, it doesn't work like that. And different departments have different SOPs. And I can understand what's happening out in California, like in New York City. You've got an unsupportive, government. Everyone's looking to defund you and everybody hates you. So your interaction with the public is going to go from this to like this, just out of human nature. You've got to, understand that, the people that are, behind the badge are, human, right? And if you're being told every day, your job sucks, I hate you, you're shitty at your job, you're not going to be excited to do that job. I get it. So now we've got a situation that, it's escalated and we're managing it, and it's out of my footprint. If it were, in the area, there'd be like the cavalry would have showed up, but I'm not. So trying to establish, that rapport with the local agency, just to give a little bit, just to understand that we're okay if you give a little more, that's fine. We're not gonna think you're intruding or anything crazy like that. And, the fact is, though, people, that one comment, did he commit a crime? Fucking could have. That's the problem. And this is where this all comes in. This is where your ability to protect and defend comes in. Because, like we've always said, the police aren't your bodyguard and they're not supposed to be. Right? How many people in a freaking municipality? Right? How many cops on duty? Now we've got, maybe 5 cops on duty at any time for 2,500 residents in our small town. Yeah. And if something goes off someplace else, everybody's going there. You are on your own. Response times being what they are. So, being, as, Kip's dropping some good stuff, be proactive. So now don't, act, again, and this is what we're doing. So, we'll keep you posted with that. Hopefully, these guys have been, she's my first time my daughter's like been exposed to some real predators. These guys have been working the area for months. It's always the same time. It's like middle of the day. They've got security. They got a security guard at night from 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. So, she's going to, again, be, he's getting a Christmas present. And, I want her to, now she's, understanding, what it, how the world is starting to work. And again, different, different jurisdictions, different SOPs, and, whatever, and obviously different cultures and climates when it comes to law enforcement, first responders, and things like that. So, again, at the end of the day, you are responsible for your own safety, period. That's it. I mean, it just so happens that if, people imagine that they call 911 and that there's enough time for law enforcement to respond. And the reality is shit happens. Resources are what they are. They get stretched. And then, even in the best of circumstances, you still got 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The average response time, I think, is like 12 minutes. So, this is why we do what we do. So again, we'll let you know what's going on with that stuff. So Kyle Rittenhouse, I wanted to talk about this because, again, the level of insanity that's around this and how it's important that this decision was rendered because, and I've tried to explain this to friends of mine on either side. I mean, look, you got to stop. There'll be, yeah, right. Kip, there'll be time to draw the chalk outline is 100% correct. Law enforcement is great. We love them, support them. But the reality is, they're going to come and take a report and try to find the body, identify the body and try to find the person responsible, period. That's it. So, I've got, getting back to a Rittenhouse verdict. Look, everybody on both sides of the aisle should be rejoicing that this was a not guilty. I mean, holy crap. But yet, still, I see people posting bullshit. This is why I'm like less and less on social media because I really could give a shit. See people posting stuff, about, if, I'm in a, like if I'm driving down the street and I feel threatened, can I shoot at, it's like describing a drive-by situation to, comparing it to Kyle Rittenhouse. So basically, if you feel threatened, you can like shoot anybody. And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to self-defense, it's very, it's complicated. It's not easy, but the factors are simple. So if the person who's threatening you has one demonstrated intent on hurting you, right? Doesn't mean if they're armed, doesn't mean if they're it just has to be intent. If they are intent and hurting you, you've got the right to defend yourself. 1, 2, if they're able, meaning if they're physically able, if they possess, if they're within a reasonable distance, it's like just like you talk about the drive-by situation. If I'm driving by my car and somebody's threatening me, I can drive away if I'm in the car, right? So you've got means of exit. So it's not an immediate threat if somebody's like a football field away as opposed to 3 feet away from me. 1. And 2, I mean, 3, that's it. You feel your life is in danger. You feel your, you or others, or even your property in some cases, you've got a right to protect that with deadly force. So, I mean, again, that I'm oversimplifying here, but that varies from, jurisdiction. But basically, if you feel your life is in danger, you're physically in danger, or someone else is in danger, and the person that's in front of you has demonstrated their intent and is capable of inflicting, injury. And this was clearly demonstrated in all 3 defenses, Kyle Rittenhouse. So, I mean, just briefly, I'm sure if you understand. So the first guy, we'll just say, we'll talk about is Joe Rosenbaum. Okay, he lived in Kenosha. This was the one who grabbed Rittenhouse's weapon. All right. We teach, and this is standard, and people who don't take any firearms training, people who aren't in law enforcement, people who don't know anything about interpersonal violence don't know this, and this is a fact. If someone grabs your firearm, if they grab your weapon, their intent is to kill you. Period. 100%. And again, keep in mind, in all these instances, Kyle Rittenhouse tried to run away. He's trying to escape. So this guy grabbed his weapon, right? So what they don't tell you is that Rosenbaum had an open case for a misdemeanor. He was released that day from the hospital for a suicide attempt. So he's clearly not stable. He had conditions of his bond, again, which he, jumped bail. Conditions of his bond read not to possess or consume alcohol or any prescription substances. He also had open misdemeanor cases for battery, domestic abuse, and disorderly conduct, domestic abuse. He also was charged by a grand jury with 11 counts of child molestation and inappropriate sexual activity with children, including anal rape. The victims were 5 boys ranging from 9 to 11 years old. He was convicted of two amended courts as part of a plea deal. So holy shit, this kid should be getting a medal on this alone. But no, again, when people are, see this shit, they just blindly, you gotta wait until due process comes out, and you gotta wait till all the facts get in. This guy's a freaking piece of shit. And, we're like blindly, thinking that this guy's got, come on. I don't understand it. I don't, and I'm talking about smart people that I know personally, that are liberal and that, are just looking at this like, yeah, he should have been, put in jail, thrown away a kid. I mean, these are criminals, and they're in the act of committing assault. And again, I don't know why you would approach a guy with a gun unless he was in the process of, shooting and killing others, which he was not. He was trying to get to the police, which were about 100 yards away. I mean, you can come at me and say, well, what's he doing there with the, with the firearm in the first place? And I mean, it's obvious now that he had a connection to the dealership, as demonstrated in my early story. Police aren't there to protect your property or you. They're only going to come after the crime is committed. And when resources are stretched, you are on your own. See the theme here? So if I have a business or my home, and I see that there's going to be mass riots and looting, and can we say looting anymore? But no, looting evokes an image of certain color of people, enough, all right? It's looting. I don't care, what color you are, right? You're a crowd, you break in and steal shit, that's looting. It's not too complicated. So, that things are, shit's going down. I mean, the kid had a firearm, and they say like he was ran over state line. So yeah, so as a kid puts out like, the mass media put it out like, and I hope these people get sued because they put it out like he was a vigilante. He took his gun and he was killing black people or he's killing protesters, and they don't give a shit about, they just see the headline, it fits their narrative, and they just go with it. And these are people who are, in the news. We're talking CNN. We're talking, I've got, hold on. I got something here for you guys. Let me just pull this up. Hold on. Yep. And this is pissing me off. If I can get it. Where are we? 35:15. Okay. No. All right. This is 1 second. I've got to go here. All right. Here we go. Good. We're good. So, yeah, I want you to look at what happened with
what's going around.
35:15. All right. So here we go. So this is how this was reported as soon as it happened.
Kenosha shooter, Kyle Rittenhouse, he murdered 2 people, by the way.
Rittenhouse is basically just after when this trial is he going to be.
Give me 1 second. Be patient.
Some of these people that are calling him.
All right, cool. All right, so I got this. I want to share this with you guys. When you see what, share screen, Chrome tab. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. You guys got this now. So we're gonna blow this up. All right.
A white supremacist and a
show.
Vigilante and so on and so forth. So and then I have another theory, but I'll play you this clip.
This is great.
Kenosha shooter, Kyle Rittenhouse, he murdered 2 people, by the way.
Rittenhouse is basically what you would have had in a school shooter. He's a 17-year-old kid. He shouldn't have had a gun. He crossed state lines to supposedly protect property. No, he was going out to shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old vigilante.
Kyle Rittenhouse, a vigilante.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the armed teenage vigilante.
A 17-year-old vigilante, arguably a domestic terrorist, picked up a rifle, drove to a different state to shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse, a guy who's deeply racist, went with weapons to a Black Lives Matter protest looking to get in trouble. He did. He murdered a couple of people.
Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old kid, just running around, shooting and killing protesters.
You see the 17-year-old who was radicalized by Trumpism, took his AR-15 to Kenosha and became a killer.
A white, Trump-supporting, MAGA-loving, Blue Lives Matter social media partisan, 17 years old, picks up a gun, drives from one state to another with the intent to shoot people.
A 17-year-old boy who drove across state lines with an AR-15 and started shooting people up, including a guy with a skateboard.
Kyle Rittenhouse, who has killed protesters, unarmed protesters.
Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old that went with a weapon into the middle of protests and then provoked people and then shot and killed them.
Kyle Rittenhouse is the enemy.
A boy from out of state drives up to the state with an AR-15 around his neck, shoots and kills a couple of people, shooting wildly, running around, acting like rent-a-cop.
Drove across state lines armed with a rifle to go and shoot people.
What a dark dystopian scene where a 17-year-old boy is carrying around a rifle, running around and gunning down protesters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no bias there is right. I'm like, the trigger words, first of all, you don't hear the word alleged at all. Nothing. I mean, unbelievable. So, you know, I mean, I hope all these guys are taken to task and everyone, I mean, imagine trying to get a fair trial after that shit. I mean, they don't care. White kid. I mean, did they also mention that he had a first aid kit with him and that he was a, you know, EMT, which is, not exactly easy to get these days. It's like 150 hours at least of training. I mean, it's nuts. So, you're looking at, again, across the board, vigilantes, state lines went there with the intent to shoot protesters. So murdered 2 people, already murdered. Unbelievable. I mean, this is why I don't watch the freaking news. Screw them. I'll listen to, and I listen to both sides of the board, man. I listen to, obviously, Rogan, and I listen to some other podcasts like, McAfee, and then I'll listen to Russell Brand, listen to Shapiro, and whoever else, Jordan Peterson. I mean, people who I think are, then there's also like health and training, like Peter Attia and stuff like that. So that's where I'm getting like, whatever information is from, because I might as well have it. And then we can get into the nuances and the details of what's going on, other than these assholes that don't give a shit. Plus, he's a 17-year-old kid. Yeah, he's being tried as an adult, but holy crap. So, it was too good. And meanwhile, who is it? Strickland? Kevin Strickland? He was in prison, for, I'm not going to look this up. When so all right, so yeah, Kevin Strickland, all right, he served like 42 years after 43 years in prison. Black man, wrongfully committed. The governor of Missouri was like, he didn't give a shit. Right? The evidence came up. I mean, holy crap. This is what we can get behind, right? How come it isn't blowing up about this poor guy, 43 years of his life spent in jail for a crime he didn't commit? Meanwhile, 2 other guys that were arrested in the case pleaded guilty and they're out. This guy maintained his innocence his entire life. 43 years in jail. And we're not even talking about it. What the hell? But we chase and follow the shiny object wherever we go. So, we talked about, the child rapist Joe Rosenbaum, who, grabbed his weapon, right? Now you got Gage Grosskreutz. I can't even pronounce this guy's names. Gage Paul Grosskreutz. Has a forfeiture case for not showing obedience to officers, as well as one for loud noises. All right, he was convicted of criminal misdemeanor in 2016. This is the guy who pointed a gun at Rittenhouse. So he pointed a handgun at Rittenhouse, which, again, he didn't kill him. He just shot him in the arm, but that's how it works. He was convicted of a criminal misdemeanor in 2016 for going armed with a firearm while intoxicated. He was arrested for burglary, but not convicted. So it's not clear whether this guy should have been, misdemeanor, felon. I know you definitely can't have a firearm. Misdemeanor, I don't know, depending on your jurisdiction of where you are, but I think you could have a firearm. Either way, he's pointing a handgun at Rittenhouse as Rittenhouse is trying to get away. So as soon as I see a weapon, I'm like, and it's trained at me, I'm like, okay, it's coming. Again, the video shows, this kid did not actively engage until he was pressed. And if this video didn't exist, he would be in jail. That kid's life would be ruined and over. His life is already, sure, he's been acquitted and, he's gotten support. But the reality is this, poor kid, killed a couple people. And, again, he's crying on the stand. That shit is real. If you see death, believe me, you see death and violence. I go, it eats at you. And the fact is that this kid actually took lives, no matter how justified he was. That takes a toll. And as I know we make fun of Alec Baldwin, but the guy whose intent wasn't to shoot and kill other people. There was gross negligence, I believe, on handling that firearm. But either way, it's like, you can't, taking a life. It's like unless you're a sociopath or a psychopath, it's not natural for one species to kill itself. It's not. We can fight, we can disagree, we can compete. That's the natural order of things. But actively killing other of your species is unnatural. So finally, the skateboard, they said they put it like he killed Anthony Huber, who's a 26-year-old kid riding around on a skateboard. So that's the image is like this kid's riding by, what is he, on a half pipe? No, he hit him in the head multiple times with the skateboard. And he also had, Huber also had a disorderly conduct conviction from 2018 as a domestic abuse repeater, which is a misdemeanor. He gave a Kenosha address, and he also had a forfeiture case for possessing drug paraphernalia. He also had a case in 2012 with these charges: recklessly endangering safety felony, use of a dangerous weapon, and domestic abuse. Strangulation and suffocation felony, domestic abuse. False imprisonment felony, domestic abuse. Use of a dangerous weapon. Domestic abuse, use of a dangerous weapon again. Yeah. So bottom line is Rosenbaum's a registered sex offender who was out on bond for domestic abuse battery accusation. He was caught on video acting aggressively earlier that night. Huber was a felon convicted in a strangulation case who was recently accused of domestic abuse, and Grosskreutz was convicted of a crime for use of a firearm while intoxicated and was armed with a handgun when shot. All of this is common knowledge, and all of this is public info, not common knowledge, sorry, because most people don't know. It's all publicly out there. And yeah, skateboard, as Kip points out, it is a weapon of opportunity. If I pick up this coffee mug and bash you in the head with it, it's a weapon of opportunity. So use of force, again, these are people who, are, again, actively attacking somebody. I understand if they felt their life was threatened. Video shows differently. If someone's trying to escape, who the hell is chasing this guy down because they feel emboldened? And it doesn't matter. So whether I'm right or left on this, you've got to understand that it's about your right to defend yourself and protect yourself. So if some mouth breather in a MAGA hat is, bearing down on you, you can do something about it. I mean, it's the thing. Listen, First and Second Amendment, man, free speech, right to bear arms. There's a freaking reason they're 1 and 2, right? I mean, there's no way about it. I mean, I can't, again, people who are just like stirring the pot, I liken them, the people that post shit and just, post like poking fun at the other side. Look, I got news for you, and this goes for both right and left. You remind me of the guy in the business meeting that is just sitting there telling you about the fucking problem. Yeah, sales are down. Yeah, we can't sell shit. All right, how does that help? How are you helping? Oh, I'm increasing awareness. Shut the fuck up. What I want is your solution to the problem. There's a problem. Offer your solution. Oh, take down the whole system. Okay, replace it with what? Yeah, exactly. How about we work together on a case-by-case, situation and, you know, enforce the laws we freaking have and allow some common sense and decency to prevail. That's it. Don't tell me, don't waste your time. You know, Bill Burr said this, which was freaking great. He's like, you know, it's like your house gets, you know, is getting destroyed, you know, in a fire, and you're arguing about replacing the toaster. You're like, this shit about what pronouns to fucking call you. I mean, look, whatever, man. I don't freaking care what you want to be called. That's not the problem. The problem is you're sacrificing your personal rights for your, you know, beliefs, which is, you know, look, Kyle Rittenhouse stood on the wrong side of what I believe in, and he should be found guilty because of that. But if he were a BLM protester who shot, you know, people on the other side, regardless, he should be revered. You know, it doesn't work both ways. It only works one way. And you have to look at the situation individually. So look, we're going to end it there. I want to thank everybody for, you know, joining us today. Again, George will be with us next week. It's been my pleasure as always. And until next time, train honestly.